Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. It's John Pollock with you. UFC 192 is this weekend. We're going to get you set with a discussion of some of the key fights, plus exclusive comments from light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier and Julianna Pena, as well as USADA releasing their drug testing statistics to the public. Julianna Pena returns to action this Saturday against Jessica Eye, looking for her second win since an amazing comeback from a devastating knee injury. Pena injured her ACL, MCL, LCL, and meniscus in 2014 and would miss a year of action as a result. When speaking with Pena this week, she told me about a breaking moment for her during the recovery process while watching another female fighter in action.
It was very difficult. I remember one in particular moment, I shattered a glass up a wall because I was so angry watching these girls, go in there and go, perform and stuff, and I couldn't perform, and I was just sitting there on the sidelines thinking, like, I know I can beat this chick, and so it was very frustrating, and I had to, keep working and use that frustration towards my physical therapy as opposed to, shattering more glasses and crying about it, So I did what I needed to do, and I got back in there. And I'm happy to say that my knee is not an issue for me. It's not something that I think about in the back of my mind at the end of the day.
Do you remember the moment that triggered the glass shattering, what you were watching?
I was watching Honda fight. And she won in about, 20 seconds or something like that. So it was very frustrating.
As of October the 1st, USADA has begun to make public their fighter drug testing data. The first round of testing took place over the course of 3 months, with Ronda Rousey leading the way. The women's bantamweight champion was drug tested 5 times over the course of the 3 months, while Bethe Correia, Thiago Alves, and Antonio Silva were tested 4 times over the time period. And this week also marks the end of UFC fighters being allowed to use IVs after weigh-ins, according to the WADA code, which USADA will be enforcing. Someone who cuts a lot of weight is light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier, and he spoke to us at Fight Network about how big of an impact this is going to have on fighters in the organization.
It's huge, man. I said when USADA came aboard, I said these guys have no idea what they are in store for. I know they've been tested before, but this is at a level that they can't even comprehend. The IV ban, it sucks. A lot of us have used IVs to rehydrate, but I'm a professional. I reached out to people that I can trust. Got a new nutritionist, Dan Leaf. He has come up with a formula that will rehydrate me and give me everything that is in that IV bag orally. It will take more time, but the guy's done the math, man. He's measured my body fat, body mass, my weight, everything, and come up with the solution. Probably more to the number than what I would get in that IV bag.
To hear that entire interview with Daniel Cormier, tune in on Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for our 1-hour UFC 192 preview show with John Ramdine, Robin Black, and myself. Here with John Ramdine and Robin Black, and some late developing news involving the UFC 192 card. Johny Hendricks is off after some weight-cutting problems. He ended up having a blockage in his intestine, according to MMAfighting.com, and then a kidney stone on top of things. Had to receive an IV. The fight is off. Tyron Woodley in a very difficult spot at this point, as he was all ready to go, and Johny Hendricks is not.
Yeah, what's interesting about this thing, I know a lot of people are going to be blaming Johny Hendricks. He should have been monitoring his weight. Robin's one of those guys that he feels entitled. But I think if you're a part of the Johny Hendricks supporters or part of his team, I'm sure they've been giving him the necessary tools to make sure that he's been on weight. I mean, he's been in a number of championship fights. He's had to be 170 pounds. The goal is to be 171 pounds for this Tyron Woodley fight. It just didn't work out. You look back at his career, many people believe that Johny Hendricks won that fight with George St. Pierre. He won the first fight with Robbie Lawler, and many people believe that he won the second fight with Robbie Lawler. On top of that, he beat Carlos Condit. So I can understand, if you're part of Johny Hendricks' team, why he would feel entitled, that he feels that he should be fighting for the title. And again, his weight up until this point was never an issue, but these are the things that happen in mixed martial arts.
Well, it was an issue that he took seriously enough to hire doctors and nutritionists and all that kind of stuff.
Is that because the IV and so on and so forth?
It's because the guy is a lazy prick. Seriously, why are you fighting at 170 pounds when you're a 220-pound man? It doesn't make
But
any
everybody
sense.
has an advantage.
Yeah, but
No, everybody.
he keeps having challenges. He keeps having issues. He keeps not quite making it. Then when he loses, it's because of my weight cut. So he hires all these people. This is your responsibility. It's not on anybody else. It's not on a doctor. It's not on a nutritionist. You're complaining about not getting title shots, what you're owed. Dude, make weight. Cut some weight. It's not hard to lose a bit of muscle mass so you can make the weight, or fight at 185 pounds, which is a weight you can make. And you never hear me talk negative about fighters. You never do, except this one issue, because everyone who's ever fought knows you have to make weight, and every one of us who's ever made weight knows how painful it is.
And what about the blockage? Is that something he could have prevented?
He's got an entire team of people. You don't have to hire that team if you walk around at 195 pounds. You don't have to hire it. He's a 215, 220-pound man who is obsessed with a ridiculous physical advantage that probably doesn't serve him and clearly has more negative than positive. So he keeps doing this, bringing in all these experts to be able to trick his body into making a weight that all he'd have to do is do a ton of cardio and reduce. You know how much food you have to eat to maintain that weight? We have the same conversation with Cyborg Santos. Oh, she can't cut the weight. You got to eat 7 enormous meals just to keep this weight. It's hard work to stay that big. So you got to cut it. And I hate being negative about any fighter. You know I love these guys. I admire these guys like crazy. But anyone who's ever made weight had to do this. And Johny Hendricks, you have to do it too.
This is also, though, this is a sport of advantages. You talk about Ronda Rousey. Well, she is a lifetime martial artist. You look at some of these other girls, they recently just got into mixed martial arts. So Ronda has an advantage. She's had judo her entire life. You look at a guy like Damian Maia, he's a world champion in jiu-jitsu. So many fighters have these advantages, and everybody is just trying to get onto the same playing field. You know, a guy like Carlos Condit didn't wrestle like Tyron Woodley, didn't wrestle like Johny Hendricks, so they have that advantage, and everybody is just trying to get on the same page.
Yeah, and this one, the unfair, whether you're talking about Cyborg, if you can't make the weight, you won't fight the most admired, most famous, richest fighter in the world. You just won't do it. And if you're Johny Hendricks, you just ripped off Tyron Woodley, who's been working his ass off, and he was going to make weight, and that's not okay.
All right, we are going to be back on Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for a 1-hour UFC 192 pre-fight show, including an exclusive interview with light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. We'll speak to you on Saturday night.